the Great Lakes nation. Top comedian turned politician Michael Yusi sworn in as Malawi's vice president. The 55-year-old replaces Saulos Chilima, who died in a plane crash earlier this month. And the rainbow flag flies high in Namibia as court declares laws banning gay sex unconstitutional. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
आपने अपनी कर में एक भगवान को स्थान दिया है.
As India's most awaited 2024 film hits screens, we tell you everything about Kalki 2898 AD. Meet Ishq Vishk rebound star Rohit Saraf as he talks about his recent release.
ये इश्क विश्क के चक्कर ने ना दोस्ती की भी बैंड बजा दी.
Visit one of its kind candlelight concert in New Delhi and find out some rare facts about recently arrested star Justin Timberlake. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION World is One.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Saigal. And on the show today, stage is set for French snap pose. We will be tracking that on the show. But first, a quick check on the headlines. US and Europe warned the Hezbollah group in Lebanon to halt strikes against Israel and back off from a wider Middle East war. Say they will not be able to hold off Israel if it decides to execute its battle plans. First round of voting in France's snap elections today, with the far right eyeing big inroads. French voters cast ballots in New York and Quebec as legislative elections begin. US President Joe Biden attends campaign fundraising events in New York, looks to reassure donors that he is up to the challenge against Donald Trump. Counting underway after polling closed in Mauritania's presidential election. Incumbent Mohamed Ghazouani, a strong ally of the West, is widely favored to return to office. At least 7 killed, including 5 children, and over 1,300 people evacuated as mudslides due to heavy rains caused chaos in South Kyrgyzstan. The cricket euphoria. In other global news, French voters are set to cast their ballots in what is seen as the country's most consequential polls in decades. The legislative snap polls will take place in 2 rounds, with the first of them slated to begin in just a few hours from now. Voting opens at 6 a.m. GMT and is expected to end at 1600 hours GMT in most of the country. But polling stations in Paris and other major cities will stay open until 1800 GMT. In France's overseas territories, however, the voting procedure started on Saturday itself. Residents of the tiny French archipelago of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon off the coast of Canada were the first to cast their ballots in the first round of the election.
Que quand bien même on habite à l'étranger, on reste citoyenne française, ça ne nous détache pas de là où on vient. J'ai de la famille là-bas, j'ai encore ma vie en France d'une part. Donc pour moi, oui, c'est important de voter étant à l'étranger parce que on peut tôt ou tard, on ne connaît pas l'avenir, je pourrais effectivement rentrer au pays.
France's islands in the Caribbean and the South American territory of French Guyana also voted on Saturday. Voters hit polling stations in the Pacific territory of New Caledonia as well. Well, French expatriates in New York said they follow politics in France very closely and are all very concerned.
Je pense que c'est important de voter, oui, où qu'on soit. La France nous propose de voter, y compris quand on n'y réside pas. Je pense que c'est important. Et de, à nouveau, resserrer le lien et montrer qu'on appartient toujours à la communauté.
The second round is due on the 7th of July, at the end of which France will have elected the 577 members of its National Assembly. 2 young leaders are gunning for the Prime Minister's post. 28-year-old frontman of far-right Jordan Bardella is squaring off against Prime Minister Gabriel Attal. The elections come after French President Emmanuel Macron called for a snap poll after suffering a crushing defeat to Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party in European Parliament polls on the 9th of June. Well, polls suggest that the upcoming elections will confirm the trend. According to the polls, the National Rally leads strongly with 34% of the vote, followed by left-wing bloc. We're talking about Nouveau Front at 28%. Trailed by Macron's centrist alliance Ensemble with 21%. The French system is complex and not proportionate to nationwide support for a party. Let's now take a look at how does it work. Now, legislators are elected by district. A parliamentary contestant requires over 50% of the day's vote to be elected outright. If there's no clear winner, the top 2 contenders alongside anyone who secures over 12.5% of votes will head to a second round. In some cases, 3 or 4 people make it to the second round, though some may step aside to improve the chances of another contender. A tactic used in the past to block far-right contestants. Key party leaders are expected to unveil their strategy in between the 2 rounds. And this makes the result of the second round highly uncertain and dependent on the political maneuvering and how voters react. In other global news, U.S. President Joe Biden restarted his fundraising campaign across 2 states on Saturday. This comes as the 81-year-old president looks to regain voter confidence after his shaky and uneven performance at the first presidential debate. Well, the fallout of the debate has not been favorable for Joe Biden. It has rather intensified concerns about his age rather than alleviating them at this point of time. Well, Biden visited the upscale Hamptons for a campaign fundraiser hosted by hedge fund billionaire Barry Rosenstein. Later in the day, he also traveled to New Jersey, referring to the debate showdown while addressing a crowd at Hamptons. Biden said, and I'm quoting him here, "I do not have a great night, but neither did Trump." Well, this has prompted some Democrats to openly question whether Biden should be replaced as their contestant for the 2024 polls. Biden will not be nominated officially until later this summer. This means there is still time to make a change. Though the procedure could be messy, let's look at some possible scenarios that comes out of this. Number one, according to Democratic National Committee member, Biden can decide himself to step aside before he is nominated. Second, Biden can be challenged by others who try to win over the delegates he has accrued. Third, he can withdraw from the Democratic Convention in Chicago in August, leaving the Democratic National Committee to elect someone to run against Trump in his place. Well, some of the top potential replacements for Biden include Vice President Kamala Harris, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Governor of Kentucky Andy Beshear, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. So far, Biden has shown no indications of wanting to step aside, and no opponents have challenged him directly yet. He has spent the last several months accumulating nearly 4,000 Democratic delegates by winning primary elections. These delegates will normally vote for him, but the rules do not bind or force them to do so. If Biden releases his delegates by stepping aside, there could be a competition among other Democratic contestants to become the nominee. Moving on, India's upcoming budget provides the country's defense sector an opportunity to set its defense export target higher. But what do experts suggest to the government to strengthen this sector? And that's what our next report decodes. Take a look.
In its pursuit of achieving a monumental annual defense production target, India faces a steep climb, necessitating substantial policy and budgetary reforms. Currently, India's defense capital acquisition budget must escalate by 25% annually over the next 5 years, compared to the existing 9% growth rate to align with this ambitious goal. India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has emphasized on the imperative to ramp up defense exports. This push underscores the need for increased budget allocations, ideally nearing 2% of GDP, and a focused strategy on indigenous production. Amid regional security challenges, experts stress on the importance of modernizing defense infrastructure and fostering innovation. These measures are seen as critical for bolstering national security and advancing India's strategic autonomy. As India prepares for the financial year 25 union budget, expectations are high for measures that will not only catalyze domestic defense production but also enhance export competitiveness, thereby securing its position as a key player in the global defense arena. The report, WION The World is One.
Well, Hollywood actor John Krasinski, who famously played